life with Tao. Only the unreal dissolves. And what is unreal? Unreal is your ego, is your unconsciousness that dissolves. Feel my thought, I-ness, internal organ, me. Before desire and before knowing, how can I say I am? Consider dissolve in the beauty. Ego has its own identity, and nobody else is concerned with your ego. It is only you. I have heard someone was visiting a place. He asked many people in a small town, what type of man is your mayor? What type of man is your mayor? A priest said, he is no good. Then he went to a gas station and he asked the attendant. His response was, he is a bum. Then he asked a barber. His response was, I never in my life voted for that rascal. Then he met the mayor, a much malignant person, and he asked, what pay are you getting for your job as a mayor? What pay are you getting as a mayor for your job? The mayor said, my goodness, I am not getting any pay. I have accepted the job just for the honor of it. Such is the situation of ego. Only you think about your ego and no one else. You think that your ego is enthroned. It is at the top. For everyone else, it is not so. No one agrees with your ego except you. If you say something about a person, only you agree and no one else accepts it. Everyone else is against it, but you go on living in dreams, in a delusion. You create your own image, your own impression, your own idea. You feel that image. You protect that image at every cost, and you think the whole world exists for it. This is madness. This is delirium, not reality. The world is not existing for you. No one is concerned with your ego except you. No one at all. We go on, when you talk to the people, they go on telling the stories about their greatness and so many things. Whether you are or not, it makes no difference. You are just a wave that arises on the surface of the ocean. Waves come and go, but the ocean is not worried about it, because a wave is transitory. One moment it is there, next moment, the moment it strikes the shore, it dissolves. But you think yourself very important. And such is the case of everyone, and everyone is trying to impress upon the other about his greatness. Those who want to dissolve the ego have first to recognize this fact. And unless you can put aside your egoistic structure, you will not be able to see the reality. We need people to talk about our greatness. And unless you put aside your egoistic structure, you will not be able to see the reality, because whatsoever you see, whatsoever you perceive, your ego distorts it. You cannot accept someone who is better than you. It tries to manipulate everything for itself, and nothing is for it, because the reality cannot help anything which is false. This you have to remember. Reality cannot help anything which is false. Reality cannot support anything which is not. Your ego is the most impossible thing, the greatest falsity. It is not there. It is your own creation, your imagination, your imaginative creation. You create an imaginative, it exists as an imaginative creation. The reality cannot help it, it cannot support it. The reality is always and goes on shattering it. It always destroys it. Whenever your ego comes in contact with the reality, it is the ego that dissolves. Just to defend yourself against those shocks, you are always coming continuously to destroy your ego, and by you avoid seeing the reality. Just to defend yourself against these shocks that reality creates when it comes in contact with your false identity, which is always coming, continuously coming to destroy your ego. By and by you avoid seeing the reality. Your many egoistic identity that I am this, I am that. You ask any person, the way the person introduces, if you are introspective, you will see it is nothing else but an expression of ego in many different ways. When the reality comes in contact with the false identity, it is the false identity that dissolves. So rather than lose your ego, you try to avoid seeing the reality. And then around your ego, you create a false world which you consider as your reality. If you are introspective and have tasted something deep within, when you interact with the people, you will realize that truth doesn't have to say anything. Then, when you are living You are protecting your false identity. You live in the world that you think is yours. Then you live in your own world. You are not in contact with the real world, the reality. You are not in contact with the reality. You cannot be in any way because you are afraid of the reality. You are living in the glass house of your own house, of your own ego, and that can shatter any moment. The fear is there. Whenever the reality comes in contact with your ego, it is the ego that destroys. It is the glass house that you have created around you destroys. So it is better not to come in contact with the reality. So ego avoids the reality. We go on escaping from the reality just to protect, to defend this impossible ego. Why is it called impossible? Why do I say it is false? Try to understand this. The reality is one. The reality exists as a whole, as a totality. You cannot exist alone. You cannot exist alone. Can you exist alone? If the trees are not existing, you will not be able to exist because trees are producing oxygen for you. If the air disappears, can you exist? You will simply die because air goes on giving you vitality, the life force. Ellen White. If sun goes out, you will be no more here because through the warmth, the rays, you are alive. They are life. The moon, the stars. Life exists as cosmic totality. That is why it is said we are not aliens. We are bound to each other by a causeless force. This includes sentient and insentient. The plants, the trees are as essential as the sun, as the moon, as the stars, as the day and night and everything. Life exists as a cosmic totality. You are not alone and you cannot exist alone like a Robinson Crusoe on a lonely island. You exist in a world. You exist not as an atomic, separate, isolated existence. You exist as cosmic whole, as a wave. You are interrelated. Wave does not have its own identity. It arises on the surface of the ocean and then dissolves in the ocean. And ego gives you the feeling that you are an individual, you are alone, you are separate, you are isolated. Wave has its own existence, but it is short-lived. Ego gives you the feeling that you are in an island, but you are not. That is why ego is false, the unreal, and the reality cannot support it. On the surface of the ocean, one day you rise as one of the myriad waves. On the surface of the ocean, you rose one day like one of the waves. And then, when the reality dawns, you realize the truth. Then the wave dissolves in the vastness of the ocean. And thereafter, When the noise of the wave dissolves, the ego dissolves, then there is only a silence. In every circumstance and situation, this couplet is very important. It is a spontaneous overflow. जिंदगी के समंदर में उठा था एक दिन लहरों सा. This is your reality. जिंदगी के समंदर में उठा था एक दिन लहरों सा. In the ocean of life, one day you rose like one of the myriad waves. मिट आज चला सागर की गहराई में. Today I dissolved in the vastness of the ocean. मिट आज चला सागर की गहराई में. रह गई एक खामोशी सी हर मौज में. And now there is a silence, a peace, a harmony, a oneness. हर मौज में, in every circumstance and situation. Whatsoever it is, it brings the same amount of satiation, same amount of fulfillment. We say that this particular dish gives me more satiation than anything else. मिट आज चला सागर की गहराई में, drowned today in the vastness of the ocean. रह गई एक खामोशी सी हर मौज में. मौज means turmoil, the situations. There is only silence, there is only harmony, there is oneness. तूफानों को जैसे साहिल मिल गया हर रह गुजर में. It seems as if the storms, tufan, storm, has found a shore in every circumstance and situation. One circumstance and situation gives you a harmony, the next one does not. When every circumstance and situation begins to give you the same amount of satiation, then you are living with reality. You say that pizza gives me a better satisfaction than anything else, or this particular dish satiates me more. It may be possible at this particular moment you are eating, you like that. Every circumstance and situation, just as all the roads lead to one destination. If there is a particular conference place, or this place where the center of activities are taking place, and people want to reach there, so people are coming from different locations, different directions, but all directions, all roads lead to same destination, whether you are following this or that. जिंदगी के समंदर में उठा था एक दिन लहरों सा. मिट आज चला सागर की गहराई में. रह गई एक खामोशी सी हर मौज में. तूफानों को जैसे साहिल मिल गया हर रह गुजर में. साहिल मीन्स shore, किनारा. तूफानों को जैसे साहिल मिल गया हर रह गुजर में. In every circumstance and situation, life exists as cosmic totality. You are not alone, and also you cannot exist alone. You exist in a world. You are not atomic, separate, isolated, and your existence is not isolated. You exist in the cosmic whole as a wave, insignificant. You are interrelated. The life is not, we are not separate from one another. Instead, we are interrelated to one another, and that is the beauty of the life. You are related to trees. You are related to the sun, to the moon, but you do not know how. Without the trees, you do not have the oxygen, and you cannot live. With the sunlight, the moment sunlight begins, the sun rises, sunlight begins to fall. Whether it is visible to you or not, the life begins. Birds start chirping, flowers starts opening its petals. If you can see in a slow motion the flowers opening their petals, it's a beauty. The same thing begins to happen to you. When the life enters into you, many things begins to open into you. The flowers opening its petal in a slow motion. The deer is galloping in a slow motion. There is a beauty of its own. We are interrelated. We are not aliens nor as strangers joined. We are bound to each other by a causeless force. That force is causeless. The relationship, the way you are related to the trees, that is the reason that the Sanatan culture respects everything. The respecting everything is considered as a worship. We are worshipping the trees. Cow is an animal that exhales more oxygen than anything else. Every other creature exhales carbon dioxide. So that is what we call respect the cow as mother. Mother puts aside all her problems, comforts and everything for the sake of the child. Trees are very important, but we go on cutting the trees for this and that. We destroy the animals. The lizard in the house is as important as anything else because it has been existing to eat all the insects and so that may exist in the house. We are not aliens nor as strangers joined. We are bound to each other by a causeless force. You exist in a world not as an atomic, separate, isolated existence. You exist in the cosmic whole as a wave. You are interrelated. An ego gives you the feeling that you are individual, you are alone, you are separate. You are like Robinson Crusoe living on a lonely island. The ego gives you the feeling that you are an island, whereas in reality you are not. That is why the ego is false, unreal, and the reality cannot support it. So there are only two ways. If you come in contact with reality, if you become open to it, your ego will begin to dissolve. If you have to create your own dream world, then live it. And you have created that world. And for that matter, everyone is living in his own dreams, in his own dreamlands. People come, and when people come to an awakened one, when he looks at them and he sees they are all fast asleep, they are dreaming. Their problem is because they are living in their own dreamland and they want to solve it. But these things cannot be solved because they are not real. How can you solve the unreal problem that is created by the mind? Most of our problems in life are created by the mind. Life is very simple without any problem. If it exists, if the problem exists, it must be solved. It is for the ego to, it is for the heart to create our problems, and it is for the intellect to solve them. This is Archimedes' Eureka. I have found it. If it exists, any problem, if it exists, there must be a solution. That is what the person who invented the electricity, Thomas Alva Edison, he was working on electricity. Everybody thought him to be a fool, because each time when he experiments, he fails. But he was more energetic. He was more enthusiastic. People say that you have failed 350 times. You should drop it. He said no. If everything, anything in life, it has a certain possibilities. Like you have a problem with the electricity. There are different combinations. So you need the exact combination to solve that problem. And when you are not finding you failed this connection, you did it, you connect this way, that way, it did not work. So that means you are coming closer to the one that is possible. And the day his wife, the same thing, and in the middle of the night, when the electricity was produced, his wife saw the illumination. She wanted to know, what is this? If the problem is real, only the solution can be found. But most of the problem that people come to me, their problems are false. They come with the problems of the others, not with their own problems. Or they create the problem out of their own mind. The fear is the creation of your own mind, is creation of ignorance. They cannot be solved because they are not real. How can a unreal problem be solved? If it exists, there must be a solution for it. But if it is nowhere, it cannot be solved. An unreal problem cannot be solved. How can it be solved? It can be solved only by an unreal answer. But that unreal answer will create other problems. Again, that will be unreal. And you fall ad nauseam. And there is no end to it. If you want to come to meet the reality, you meet the reality. And to meet the reality is to meet God. God is not something hidden somewhere. God is not hidden somewhere in the sky. It is the reality around you. The very idea that you have in your mind that God is sitting somewhere up in the sky is ignorance. It is the reality around you. God is the unmanifest creation, and creation is the manifest God. सृष्टि ही सृजन करता है. Srishti means creation, and Srijan Karta means the creator. The creator is the creativity. The moment you realize that creator manifests through his creativity, and creativity is the way of the creator. God is not hidden. You are hidden. You are hidden in the unreality. That's why you cannot see. The people who are ignorant, They cannot see the existence of that life pulsating in a tree, in a river, in a mountain. God is the nearest immediate presence around you. In the chirping of the birds, in the laughter, childlike laughter, smile of a child, in the sound of the ocean. But you are hidden in a capsule of your own unreal world, of your own creation, and then you go on protecting it. And the center of that existence is your ego. Ego is unreal because you are not isolated, you are not separate. We are not independent. We are not dependent. We are interdependent, interrelated. You cannot experience the bliss of love on your own. You have to experience it in the company of someone else. Ego is unreal because it is not isolated. You are one with reality. You exist as organic part of it. You cannot exist as separate from it. If separated, even for a single moment, you cannot be alive. You cannot be alive. With each breath, you are bridged with the cosmos. Because what you breathe the cosmos, the existence. Every moment you are moving in and out of it, just as wave rises on the surface of the ocean, moves on the surface of the ocean, and dissolves in the surface of the ocean. Can you exist? Can you imagine the presence of a wave without ocean? Can you? Waves cannot exist without ocean. You are bridged with the cosmos. Every moment you are moving in and out of it, just as wave arises out of it, comes out of the surface, comes from within the ocean on the surface, and then dissolves it. Every moment you are moving in and out, meeting the real and coming back and maintaining your unreal identity. Enough for now. Until tomorrow, take care and do have a pleasant day.